So in order to bind that to our current render mesh, we have to use the guide transfer or guide deform. We'll do a test with the guide deform to see if it works better or what type of shapes I'm getting with this node compared to the other. And you can see that the tips are getting very soft on the guide transform, which is what we want to go for here. But it seems to just dread instead of generating the shapes that we needed there. Here we'll be setting up another bend node on a little bit of different settings and alter the curve mask to like wavy diagram. And then I will try to blend this over with a blend node. That is a technique that sometimes works when you want to have more variation. So especially good if you have like very long hair where you need to keep your tips And here we will copy over the guide groom once more. And for this guide groom, we will mirror it later on. Also, we will fill it up with spots on the body as well. No, this is just the guide groom that fills up some spaces. So I will render that once more and go back and forth between sculpting and rendering to see where I need a shape change or any additional alteration of shapes. And I will try to use the guide transfer instead of the guide form once more. and I will add additional guides. Have a part on the knee that is currently too long. I still have to fix. Also, the clumps are too visible on the back currently, not from the front view, but more from the side view. So here I reduced the length. I also updated my model. So in the pose, so the paws are closer together now. Usually when it comes to building characters, we always groom them with like toes that are more apart for rigging purposes, or in groom, it's very useful too. For adding textures, there are multiple ways. I like to not apply it as a mask, but apply it as a point color. So we first have to assign like a vector value that will carry our point data coloration. So in Mentor, you have multiple options to assign textures, for example. You can use current active color value. This is what will be traveling through all the way up to our shader. And I will assign it a value of white. So I will put all to white. It's like RGB. And then I will add a paint attribute. And I will just add this as an attribute here and put it to vector instead of float, to color in this case. And here I'm trying to assign the color, and it seems to work. I will just drop a subdivision node so we have more resolution, and then I will just try to come up with a pattern. Yeah, we will drop another attribute wrangle node here. Where we assign the active color once more. And then I will create an alt connection that we later on reference in our groom outputs. So if you want to assign a normal texture instead of going over this point color, you have to attribute transfer the UV set, which is stored on the vertex from the skin to the groom in order to load the texture. But yeah, we don't necessarily have to do that because we are not going for that way here. Here we are going to look for our texture node and reference it in with the object merge. And I will drop the vector name here so I don't forget it. And then it's a normal attribute transfer is what we're going to need. We're transferring the color information from the skin onto the points of the groom. And then later on, I like to promote it to primitive in order to get cleaner look, so each hair is assigned like a color all over. And here you can get the preview of how that looks like. This is still without the promote. This is how that looks like. So you get a very nice transition. And if you want to blur that out, for example, you can always do that. I like to go over the point color because it gives you more opportunities. For example, if you combine that with guide masks, you can get a lot of just copy that over and reconnect it. And we, of course, have to recache our caches. And then inside of the shader, you can activate the tint with point color. And then you can see that your texture is showing up that you previously pointed. You can also see that I get a little bit of artifacts, especially around the tail and the chest piece. So in order to fix that, you have to put the threshold a little bit higher, otherwise it will break off at a certain distance from the skin. So by giving it a higher value, you ensure that projection will reach all the way through to the tip of the And what I like to do additionally, or as a starting point there, is attribute from map. And I have a photo projected texture of a normal cat here that I will just load into. So you can see it here. This is my texture. It's currently very lower. Where I can, first of all, bind my attribute city color to get it inside of here. And then I will drop a color correct. So wait till this loads, and this is too much saturation. But yeah, this photo texture gives me a nice variation, especially on the back and a guideline for my face. So I go a little bit lower on the gamma and a little bit higher on the saturation, but not as high as before. And you can see the effects happening in real time, which is very nice. It doesn't have to be a clean texture. I think grooming in general is very forgiving when it comes to texturing. But yeah, then you can run a test and see if that works with the texture assigned. And these are the results. I will also not assign the color to my neck and just assign a white color to my neck in order to get a more, basically a more separated look to the neck itself. And for the tail itself, I will create a own shader and split off the tail in the render settings as well, so I can assign the shader for it separately, because I want to basically give the root color a darker tint and the tip color a lighter tint to what it currently is, in order to make it pop a little bit more. And yeah, I will bring in my references here and just play with the root and tip color, and the tinted point color is just a multiply basically that gets added on top. And then I will render that once more. And here you can play a little with the blend settings. Like currently the legs and the back is a little bit too gray for my taste, so I will add a little bit more saturation there. And for the face, I would like to paint like a mask pattern, as you can see screen right. But yeah, first I will VOP that's applied, and that's just specifically in the SOPs of the hair systems. And yeah, I will go a little bit higher on the gamma to make it less dark and more saturated. Similar for the body, where I do the same, but just more saturated. And then I have prepared like a little region here where I painted just the ears in a darker tone to get more separation here. I also brought in the whiskers to tint the whisker positions a little bit darker. But yeah, here I will just focus on painting that mask shape that we can see on the right. And yeah, I will just try to transfer that to our mainstream, and we are just transferring this attribute over. And this is the attribute wrangle here, where we bring in the whiskers as well. It's just to multiply. And I will do the same and just multiply our current color value with our vector that we created earlier. And I forgot the name of the vector, so I'm trying to get that from there to transfer currently here. And yeah, I will just paste that over here. And so this is how it looks like when we're going to render it. And I want to focus on adding like point variation or like primitive variation in the darker parts. So if you zoom in into the cat pictures, it looks like they have like a very dark strand next to a very light strand. And you can see that. So in order to make that effect, I will drop the attribute noise. And this is going to be an additive function at the end. So I will just generate a noise and I will use our attribute wrangle, where I just set this float value noise to the color R. It's currently very slow because it's getting a lot of subdivisions there on the skin. I will add a attribute remap too in the color node to visualize my noise. And it looks like the color node appears to stay gray. So I will try to debug what is causing this. So I will delete the attribute remap as it is currently to see if it still stays gray. And for debugging, the geometry spreadsheet is very useful. So you can see your noise attribute on the right, and it's all the way from 1 to 1.6, I think, or even higher. So if you group that or shuffle it by value, you can see that it's ranging from 1 to 2. One, 2, 0, 1. So we can fit it up in the range. It's a point group again, settings to bonding sphere. And I will try to bring that in phase range. There we go. I'll call this phase. And assign it a color value of white while the body will stay black. And then we're going to multiply that over attribute wrangle with our, and then we will multiply that with our attribute noise that we defined as f noise here. And see how that looks like with our visualizer color node. This is how it currently looks like, and I will know that this works. I will drop a attribute similar to this, and then I will attribute transfer that as well, just the noise value, and connect that to our stream here, and add another line where I just add the noise attribute to the color, so it's like an additive function. And this is how it looks like. Here are a few opacity tests as well. Sometimes you can see the skin coming through a little bit, but yeah, overall I want to go softer. Also for the legs, a couple of flyaways would be nice. So I'm copying the flyaways from the neck room to the legs here and connect that. It's basically a guide mask that is being separated by two blast nodes. And then I will reshuffle a little bit. I will place this under the color transformation, and I will assign it just white as a color as well, so to have a little bit of variation there. And just on the stream, basically, where it separates the flyaway hairs. References. out if you compare that to the reference at right top. And from here, there are a couple of things that I still want to change on the pose. For example, like the ears, I want them to be more pinched on the tips and less round. Yeah, mostly on the model and on the groom itself too. But yeah, from here we're going to cache that out and transfer it to the latest post. And these are the first new renders. You can see that it's currently still a little bit noisy, especially in this render here, which is an earlier render. I ended up rendering it with 9 camera samples, which is probably too low. So if you want to have a clean render, you should probably get higher in the samples itself. But yeah, other than that, I hope you enjoyed this course. I hope you learned something. If you want to support me and my art, just follow me on social media. My name is Christian Farnsteiner. Thank you for your time.